Hey, everybody, you listen.
Wait. Before you do that, one of the things I'm going to toss out to Dr. Sheffield is the when he described his dislike for the word tolerance.
Yes.
What was the word you preferred over that?
Appreciation.
Appreciation.
People
Okay.
have to, acceptance. Appreciation and acceptance are crucial. But people ought to be able to accept and honor differences, not to tolerate them.
I agree.
There's nothing about toleration that's positive. So,
all right. I just want to make sure I had that right.
Yes, definitely. I will be happy to respond to that.
We'll introduce that at some point. Okay. Go ahead, Butch.
Take two. Hey, everybody, you're listening.
Without further ado, I bring you Don Sheffield.
Hey, everybody, Ulysses Slaughter with Building Community, the Chester Housing Authority's online platform for staying in touch with the residents, the stakeholders, the staff, and all the people around the world who love this award-winning show. Joined as always with Executive Director Steve Fischer. Steve, let's just get to what's important. What number show is this?
47.
47. We've done this 47 times. Do you actually go check before you come in, or do you actually have this memorized?
No, I have a very scientific method. I go to my calendar and see what number the last one was, and then I add one.
Wow.
Well done,
almost
well
calculus,
done.
right?
Well done.
Yeah, way back when I took math and, stuck with me.
You add one and then you go up. Okay. All right, everybody. Well, Steve, you have a wonderful guest who I've already had an opportunity to meet joining us today. You want to introduce our guest?
Be glad to. Dr. Donald Sheffield hails from Western Pennsylvania, a town that I have some affection for. We've been over this, Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
We won't go into why again. So we won't bore our Philadelphia Eagles fans, viewers, with my affection for Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania. But let them figure it out. Actually, maybe at the end of this, we can pop that as a trivia question.
I was about to say, Steve, maybe we can offer up something for people who can find out why you love Beavertown.
Beaver Falls.
Beaver Falls, excuse me.
Right. Okay, so folks can do that research over the internet while we're talking. All right, let's get back on track here. Don Sheffield, I had the pleasure of meeting a year or so ago in Pittsburgh at a housing conference. I learned a lot from what he had to say, and I thought I would like to share how I benefited from him with our entire staff here at Chester Housing Authority. So eventually we got around to doing that about a couple of weeks ago. Don made the journey to Chester. We'll say the Mecca of Pennsylvania, the state of Pennsylvania. So now he can feel like he's been everywhere. But long story short, cultural competency is his bag, and he went over that with all of our staff together. It's interesting, it's insightful, and it helps to me and to our folks. I think it helps you seek understandings that will help you build your career, not only among your workplace that you're in, but also in your relationship between yourself, your workplace, and the people you call your clients or you're in service to. I know a lot about Don Sheffield now. It's too much to to, put it all in an introduction because we want to get to talking, but I have a feeling a lot of it will come out in conversation. So let's get to it.
So my first question, I think that people would want to know, Dr. Sheffield, is what is this thing that you're so high on that you call cultural competency?
Well, Martin Luther King said that we have all come to America aboard different ships, but we're in the same boat now. And believe me, and I've heard that quote years ago, but it wasn't until I really understood cultural competency that I began to think about, wow, this is the piece that requires us to operate in the same boat. And it's so important to recognize that when you live in a diverse world, and people are interacting, what is it about what makes that interaction positive? What's the skill set necessary for us to do that in a way that leads us to have a high-performing environment? And so it was clear to me that there's a skill set necessary and within a diverse society to operate in a way that allows us to live, work, play, learn together. And that we need to be very intentional about helping people understand what it means, and this is the essence of being culturally competent, to interact with folks that are different than you in a positive way. And the operative word is positive. It doesn't take a skill to interact with folks negatively. And believe you me, I say that almost every day, every time I see something insensitive happen. Cultural competency is a skill. It's a learned skill. And it's a skill that one doesn't possess just because they are different. It's a skill set that everybody needs, and it will always be a work in progress. So yes, I think cultural competency is that missing piece that allows us to operate in the same boat in a positive way.
Can you explain what you mean when you say culture? A lot of the times people think of one or two things when they think of culture, and I think to talk about competency related to culture is crucial, but people have to know what you mean when you say culture. You don't just mean race. You mean
Absolutely.
So much more than that. Explain that, please.
Thank you. Yes. Cultural competency has to do with a variety of things that determine who people are. Yes, race, ethnicity, gender are the obvious ways of thinking of cultural competency, but there's a cultural culture related to being in poverty. There's a way people act because they live in poverty, and we got to be sensitive and understanding of what that is. There's a way people act when they have a handicap. There's a way people act when they've gone and served us in the military, and they have a different need for us because of that. And of course, we know that age creates a different competency set of skills that people, who are at different ages within their life cycle have different needs. As well as folks who are disabled, have disabilities and handicaps. So we need to recognize, what cultural competency means to all of us. And I also want to say specifically that it also has everything to do with some of the things that people fear regarding sexual orientation. It's so important that we understand that a cultural competency extends to all of our differences and the importance of being able to relate to those different cultures. And of course, as you know, and Steve's aware of this, I come from a very large family. And there was a culture to growing up Sheffield, and we all absorbed it and knew it. And that culture drove us, to the kinds of things that we were able to become successful with. So yes, culture, it can be a subset of so many different things, but we need the skill sets to interact with it.
You mentioned about 8 components of culture. You mentioned age, you mentioned race, you distinguished ethnicity. I know I've heard you talk about religion, talked about being a veteran, poverty, handicap, sexual orientation, and then you talk about putting all that together. And you talk about one person who's walking around with potentially all of those categories, right? And then meeting somebody who has different categories inside of them. And I mean, if we could just picture that, people coming together, this is what you were teaching when you talked about bringing those differences together.
Yes, and think about it as, I like to think about it as a salad bowl. Think about people who are carrots, olives, radishes, cucumbers, tomatoes, peppers, you name it. We all have these unique differences, but we're all still Americans, and we are all operating in the same boat, as Dr. King would say, in the salad. And so what is it that requires us to be able to relate to each other in a positive way? Salad bowl skills, if you will. If you want to look at cultural competence in a simplistic way, look at them as salad bowl skills. What is it that one needs if a carrot's going to interact with a pepper to an olive? It's not going to change who we are. It's just going to help us have a point of interaction that's positive. Mm-hmm. And of course, and we've all heard about America being a melting pot. And that experience and that practice of being a melting pot in so many ways erased much of the identity that folks have when they brought to this country, particularly in terms of ethnicity. And so what we have to recognize is that those practices have not allowed us to develop cultural competency. Mm. So the shifting of the paradigm, if you will, if you think about a salad, the beautiful thing about a salad, I love saying this to people, the beautiful thing about being in a salad is simply this. What's the worst thing that's going to happen to you in this American salad? Well, your interaction may cause you to be lightly tossed, but you'll still be who you are.